Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back for your Taurus season transit update reading and collective tarot reading that we will do at the end of the video. I will have the timestamp for the tarot reading posted in the caption below, but as always, I encourage you to watch the transits as well because, as I have been saying for the last couple months, we have a very interesting Taurus season ahead of us. And I plan to post this video exactly 1 week before Taurus season begins, which is April 19th at exactly 9:39 p.m. Eastern Time. But of course, you can come back and watch this at any point during Taurus season just to get an update on the day, whatever's going on. You need to refresh your memory, whatever you got to do. It's springtime. It's fertile. We are growing. We are moving. We are going. We're going. Finally. After Pisces season and the molasses we were moving through, and then the jolt, slingshot energy of Aries season. Taurus season helps us to slow down just a little bit so we can get our bearings. But as we are getting our bearings and slowing down, we are alchemizing and evolutionizing within. So it's almost as if it's not necessarily a pause because even in the stillness, we are blooming. We are blooming. So what a gift that is, right? What a gift. And as always, of course, I will have my notes to the side. So if you see me look over to the right, just checking out the handy dandy laptop. That's all I'm doing. Okay, let's dive into it. We'll start with the moon cycles. So we have our first quarter moon in Leo at 3 degrees and 56 minutes. So almost 4 degrees, but when it stations exact, it will still be in that 3-degree mark. And that's at 10:32 p.m. Eastern Standard or Eastern Daylight Time on April 23rd. And then our full moon in Scorpio, May 1st, exactly 1 month after our April 1st, our April Fool's Day, All Fool's Day, full moon in Libra. So May 1st, we'll have our full moon in Scorpio at 1:23 p.m. Eastern Time. 123, we love that. On the 9th of May, we will have our last quarter moon in Aquarius at 19 degrees, and that will station exact at 5:10 p.m. So on 5/9, it'll station exact at 5:10. Progress, what was I saying? We're blooming, we're revolutionizing, we're going. Little instances like that. And then finally, we will have our new moon at the end of Taurus season in the last couple days. The new moon will station exact at 25 degrees and 57 minutes at 4:01 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I gotta get used to saying daylight. I always say standard time, and then people keep correcting me. So I'm correcting myself now. I hear you. I hear you. I got it. All right. Let's dive in. So like I said, the sun moves into Taurus on April 19th at 9:39 p.m. Eastern Time. So fix it for your time zone, however you need to. And on that same day, we will have a banger of a conjunction in Aries, of course, because we are still moving with a lot of this Aries energy, especially at the beginning of Taurus season. So on that first day, when the sun moves into Taurus, we will have Mercury, Mars, and Saturn all playing together at 7 degrees Aries. And at the same time, we will have the beginning of an exact transit between Juno and Pluto, conjunct each other at 5 degrees Aquarius, making a somewhat loose, but not very loose within 2 degrees, somewhat loose sextile with our Mercury, Mars, and Saturn conjunction. And then once Mercury and Mars moves forward, Saturn will still be in that conjunction, but then Saturn moves into 8 degrees shortly thereafter. And like I said, that's the beginning of a transit. So it's about 6 days. How many days is that? 5 days. So it begins on the 18th, and then it'll continue on the 19th as we usher ourselves into Taurus season, and then all the way up until the 23rd, which I believe wasn't that the first quarter moon in Leo. So that'll be an interesting energy between Juno and Pluto. Juno represents, she's representative of Hera in Greek mythology, so the wife of Zeus or Jupiter or whichever mythological structure you want to follow. And Juno, while she is the queen of the heavens, right? She is the queen of the gods. She is the overarching ruler there. She can also be a bit vindictive. She's also representative of motherhood and marriage, but the institution of marriage, not necessarily the love aspect of marriage. And if we think about Juno's relationship, or I guess Hera's relationship, again, depending on what mythology you follow, Hera's relationship with Zeus was not very rooted in love. It was vindictive, it was jealous, it was vengeful, it was very vengeful. Hera is the reason a lot of gods and mortals together have faced a lot of strenuous experiences because she felt betrayed by Zeus. Just looking at Heracles, for example, his 12 labors was because Hera was jealous of Zeus. Or jealous, I shouldn't say jealous of Zeus, but jealous of something that Zeus had done unto her. And then she forced Hercules into these seemingly impossible tasks. So when you have that energy of Juno, which represents that institutionalized structure of marriage, that union, that coming together, also babies, also like pregnancy and birth and all of that, but it's more about the structure of marriage and how marriage fits into the institution. Joining up with Pluto for a couple days, And again, making a loose sextile to that crazy conjunction with Mercury, Mars, and Saturn on the first day of Taurus season, which is all about that fertility, that blooming, that coming into life, that moving from the seed that's been fertilized and actively growing into where we are going from there. And then what I like to say with from Aries to Taurus to Gemini season, Pisces season, the seed was put into the soil. Aries season, it's been watered. There was action that we put intention and action towards making that seed come to sprout. And Taurus season is when it sprouts above the ground and begins to grow. And then when you start to see the plant flower and blossom, and then carry the seeds off to then plant themselves elsewhere, that carrying of the seeds is Gemini season. So when we're in Taurus season right now, it's that energy of flowering into being. It's emerging from the darkness of the soil through our action and intention and our willpower, because that's also what Aries is. We grow to emerge from the soil because of our sheer will. And again, the action we put behind our intention. So starting Taurus season with this conjunction between Juno and Pluto. Again, Juno is the institution of marriage. Pluto is death and destruction and transformation and rebirth. And as we have been moving through these last couple months, I mean, this whole last year since Pluto first moved into Aquarius, I guess it's been almost a year and a half now, but since Pluto moved into Aquarius in the fall/winter of 2024, it's been a lot of very intense astrological energy, and especially so in these last couple months, we've been seeing that. We've been seeing that. So to start Taurus season off with this asteroid that represents an element of fertility, but almost institutionalized fertility, and the ways we can use the institution of marriage and union in a way to help usher in death and destruction of what needs to wilt and die. Because think of it like when they do brush fires, right? They need to clear off all of the extra plants and debris that are just like like weighing down the other plants that are trying to grow through and sprout up and flower and become. So this Juno Pluto connection, it's almost as if you are taking this idea of what the institution of marriage means in you and the idea of coming into union within yourself. It's not necessarily only with other partners, but if you do have a partner, this could be a bit of a tumultuous transit as we usher ourselves into Taurus season, a bit of a tumultuous transit when it comes to the structure of the relationship, because again, Pluto is transformation. Pluto is birth, it's life, it's death, it's that transition between death and then birth and life and death. It's everything in between. It's that entire cycle. So if we are coming together, Juno and Pluto coming together, it's a death of the understanding and awareness of how we used to look at the institution of marriage. Again, whether that's spiritual marriage within ourselves or the institution of marriage in terms of our relational understanding and how we approach that idea as coming into union with another. And then with that sextile between Mercury, Mars, and Saturn. Mercury and Mars are going to have this like very beautiful dance that they're doing throughout Taurus season where they'll catch up and then go back and then Mercury's going forward. There's a dance that they're doing together. And when Mercury, our planet of communication, comes together with Mars, our planet of action, and then comes together with Saturn, our planet of discipline and trajectory and boots on the ground work, so that we can do the work today in order to get to where we see ourselves and know we are meant to go in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, that's what Saturn represents. So it's this idea, if we bring it back to the Pisces new moon, and then again with the Libra full moon. The Pisces new moon, Mercury was with the North Node. When we were speaking our destiny into reality. We were breathing life into the destiny that we see ourselves walking towards. That was Mercury with the North Node, again on the Pisces new moon. Go back and watch that video if you are interested in learning more about what exactly that meant. But if not, we're going to keep going. And then it was actually for the Aries new moon, not the Libra full moon, but the Aries new moon where Mercury conjoined Neptune. So it was this energy of speaking life into the destiny we see ourselves going towards when Mercury was with the North Node on the Pisces new moon. Jumping forward a moon cycle, the Aries new moon, Mercury conjoined Neptune. So all of that life you were speaking into your dreams and your destiny and your purpose as you're moving forward, when Mercury conjoined Neptune for the Aries new moon, that was telling you, hey, all of that stuff you spoke into your destiny, into your purpose with Neptune, it's saying speak bigger things into life, dream bigger and speak those bigger dreams into life. And it was a reclamation of your truth against the will of your doubts and the doubts that have held you back in the past, because we're going to get to it eventually, but Chiron is still a big player during Taurus season as well. And it's the doubts that formed because of your old wounds telling you that you need to play small in order to keep yourself safe. We're no longer doing that. That's no longer an option. And that Mercury conjunct Neptune was that idea of like, okay, We are moving past our doubts, and not only are we moving past our doubts, we see how small we've been playing in the past. So now speak bigger things into existence, speak bigger dreams into existence, speak life into the biggest dream you can imagine for yourself. That was the Aries new moon. And now to begin Taurus season, we're combining the breath of life that we put both into our North Node and into our bigger dreams and into our bigger destiny. That's with Mercury, combined with the planet of action, Mars. So everything you spoke into existence, you are now putting into action. And not only that, we've got Saturn, the planet of our long-term discipline and devotion to our purpose and to our drive and to what we are meant to do, not only for ourselves, but in terms of how we are meant to fit into this world around us, into the greater society, into our communities. That's Saturn. So you are taking your words, putting action behind your words, and making sure the action is aligned with the destiny you see yourself moving towards. All of that while the sun is moving into Taurus, while we are gearing up to start our season of blooming into our flower, to then take our message, our seeds, into Gemini season to spread around and fertilize how they're going to do. That's the first day, and we're already like 10 minutes into this video. That's just the first day of Taurus season. Talk about a big transition, right? And then on the next day, on the 20th, Mars and Mercury will stay conjoined at 8 degrees Aries. So they're just kind of continuing. They're almost carrying that discipline and that like the devotion that we see with them putting the words and the actions towards our long-term goals. They are taking that disciplinary energy and moving together with it. So our words and our actions, they no longer need to be like watched over by Daddy Saturn there, because Saturn is saying, I trust you guys to continue to carry this vision with you. And so that's what they're doing on the next day when they move away from Saturn. And then Saturn follows into 8 degrees shortly after. But by that point, Mercury and Mars are already going to be out of that very, very tight conjunction with the 1 degree. They'll still be influencing each other, at least within 5 degrees, but it'll be less potent as it is on that first day. So again, just pace yourself this Taurus season. Continue with the pace, but be sure to take the breaks and just be here. So we had the moon move into Cancer, Mars and Mercury still together at 9 degrees. And then on the 22nd, the day before for the last quarter moon in Leo, on the 22nd, we will have the sun semi-sextile Neptune at 2 degrees Taurus for the sun, and then 2 degrees Aries for Neptune. And at the same time, we're going to have our moon conjoin our Jupiter at 17 degrees Cancer, and that's only going to be exact for about an hour, around like 5:30 to 7-ish p.m. Eastern time. Again, make it work for whatever your time zone you're in. And then again, that sun semi-sextile Neptune at 2 degrees. Semi-sextiles are not very prominent energies. They are 30 degrees apart exactly, so with Taurus and Aries right there. But the sun semi-sextile Neptune, it's almost like these two are working together so the sun can illuminate the big dreams that you spoke into existence when Mercury and Neptune were together there. So it's just this refresher of saying, hey, don't forget what you spoke for yourself. Don't forget where you're going. Don't forget the purpose. Don't forget the drive. It's that illumination of like, hey, make sure you're still on track here. And that's kind of all it is. It's just like a little reminder, a little nudge there. And then the day of our last quarter moon in Leo, again, that's the 23rd of April. So on that day, we will have Uranus and Venus conjunct one another at 29 degrees, a critical degree. And then again, we have our last quarter moon about an hour and a half later. That'll station exact at 10:32 p.m. at 3 degrees Leo. And then that sun semi-sextile Neptune is actually still together. They're shifting to the 3-degree mark on this day. And at the same time, the moon will be exactly square the sun and trine Neptune at 3 degrees Leo. And funny enough, that last quarter moon, just about an hour before it stations exact, almost exactly when Uranus and Venus are directly on top of each other, that last quarter moon is going to make an exact square to the sun and an exact trine with Neptune. Again, this is around 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So all at the same time, we're going to have Uranus directly conjoining Venus, the moon directly squaring the sun, which is semi-sextile Neptune, and then the moon also directly trining Neptune. And the moon and Neptune trining each other, that's a gorgeous energy. The sun and the moon squaring each other brings that groundedness to those big lofty dreams of us checking in and saying, oh, this is the big dream I spoke into reality. So how can I now take the sun and the moon? The moon represents our deep internal values and the aspects of ourselves we usually keep close to ourselves. But with the sun and with the square, which is a tense aspect, but also a grounding aspect, it's almost as if like as the sun checks in with Neptune to say, are you still on track with those big goals and visions? Like don't lose the vision. Hold the vision and keep moving towards the vision. That's what the sun and Neptune are doing together. And then the sun and the moon are saying, is your vision aligned with your inner values? And if not, you're going to feel a little bit of tension there. So, and the tension is just so you can like revamp it so that these big visions that you're going after, you're not going against your core values in order to get there. If you see that your vision aligns with your values already, that aspect, that tense aspect between the sun and the moon is not going to feel as tense, but it's going to allow you to ground things into reality. You might get like an aha moment or like have an opportunity be not necessarily handed to you, but like enter your sphere for you to think about or marinate on, or like it's even just an idea that comes to you. It'll be something that helps you take something that can take those big visions and bring them to reality for you. But again, if they don't align to your values, that aspect is going to be more of like not necessarily uncomfortable, but being like, hey, you say you want that, but you can only get that if you go against this. So go back to the drawing board, essentially. And on that same exact day, we're going to have Mercury trine Lilith, and that will be at 13 degrees Aries and Sagittarius. So as we're moving through all of that energy of like checking in with your values and making sure they align with your big lofty dreams and how you're going to get there and all of that, with Mercury and Lilith making that exact trine with each other, it's almost saying like, do these align with your values? And also, it's like asking yourself if the big dreams are even big enough, and also if your big dreams are taking into account those repressed sides of yourself that you felt like you had to hide. Lilith has been playing a big role these last couple months in helping us actualize our totality, in helping us look at the things we thought we had to repress or we've been taught to feel shame of. She's been helping us look at those things and not only just see them, but integrate them and love them and accept them and allow them to bloom with every other aspect of ourselves, because we can only become that beautiful, gorgeous, fat ass papaya that comes off of the tree if we allow those darker aspects to integrate as well. The decay, the maggots that eat at the rotten fruit on the ground, like all of it is an aspect of how we get to become that massive fucking papaya, right? So it's about integrating those aspects of ourselves in order to allow that bloom to be as fruitful and as vibrant and as abundant as possible. And Mercury is not only the planet of communication but also our intellect. It's the way our brains function and how we sense and see patterns and how we make sense of the world around us. So as we're checking in with ourselves to make sure our dreams align with our values and all of that beautiful big stuff, as we're doing all of that, Mercury and Lilith are asking us, okay, are you still repressing any part of this big, beautiful brain or any part of this big, beautiful body that you have? Because if there is still a sense of repression or shame or embarrassment, even, it doesn't even have to be as heavy as shame, but if you feel embarrassed even by expressing a certain aspect of yourself, that's part of what you're looking at in terms of your value system and acceptance of yourself. So you can only reach these big dreams if you have a harmonious connection between all of the parts of yourself and how you integrate that in your body and in your mind in order to bloom forward. So that's kind of what that day is representing. And again, that's going to be the last quarter moon in Leo. And all of this is going to be exact right around like 9 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. So maybe a great time to journal. Again, that's on the 23rd. And we're going to move forward on the 24th. Oh, so depending on where you are in the world, this could also be very late night on the 23rd, but on the 24th at 12:03 a.m. Eastern time, Venus then moves into Gemini. So it's going to Venus in Gemini energy compared to Venus in Taurus, where it was in its domicile. Venus in Gemini, that's my natal placement. So I love Venus in Gemini energy personally, but it takes you out of that more sensual side of what Venus can represent, like very embodied and very like whipped creamy energy, I guess, milkshake energy. I don't know what these words are, but that's kind of Venus in Taurus, where it's like it's sweet and decadent and like cherries and dark chocolate. Where Venus in Gemini is almost like it moves the energy out of the body and more into the head, more into the mind, more intellectual, more fast paced, more like sapiosexual. You're moving away from the sensuality of the deliciousness and the decadence and all of that, and you're moving more towards like classic, like Hermes energy, messenger, psychopomp, curiosity, childlike, playful, easily bored, needs stimulation, that kind of energy in terms of what Venus represents in your life. So look at where your Venus is and where Gemini falls in your chart to see how this energy is going to move with you. But I'm looking forward to that. Again, that'll be on the 24th at 12:03 a.m. Eastern time. So potentially the 23rd, depending on where you are in the world. So on the 25th, we will have our sun directly square Pluto at 5 degrees Taurus for the sun and Aquarius for Pluto. And then, so we'll talk about that first. While the sun is squaring Pluto on that day, that's just highlighting. And again, that's Juno will have just moved out of that direct conjunction with Pluto 2 days before on the 23rd, along with everything else going on that day. So, what the sun squaring the Pluto after that Juno Pluto conjunction officially ends, it's asking yourself, okay, you've looked at the institution, you've allowed the transformation to happen within you, and how you see union within yourself and how you allow union within yourself to mirror externally, right? You've allowed what needs to die in terms of how you understand and move through union. And so now the sun again is just bringing illumination and bringing a grounded energy to that transformation that you maybe even subconsciously, you don't even know you moved through it, but it's almost bringing a sense of groundedness or tension if you still feel that disconnect of union within yourself, if you're still like yin and yang, like separate, they are not together. If it's still like, if you still feel that sense of like two wolves battling it out within you, that sun is going to illuminate that fact. But if you've allowed yourself to move through the alchemical process of divine union within you that we saw with Pluto and Juno together, and even if that meant allowing the old understanding of divine union to fade away so that you can make space for a new understanding to emerge if it didn't during that transit with Juno officially, the sun's going to highlight where you can do that and where you can find that levity within that space there. And then Uranus moves into Gemini that night at 8:50 p.m. Eastern time. And I wrote, the winds of change are upon us. Change. I said chains, redact that. We don't want no chains, and especially Uranus moving into Gemini. I feel like that's like you. It's not even the chains breaking. It's like you change from matter to pure essence and pure energy. So if you were in chains, it's like your body disappears and you become the atmosphere itself. So it's like, how are you going to change? You can't put chains on the atmosphere. That's the energy of Uranus moving into Gemini. So I'm very excited for this transit. If you go back to last year, I don't remember the exact dates, but it was sometime in the spring, and I believe it was in July when Uranus officially stationed retrograde to retrograde back into Taurus. So May, June, July energy or area of 2025. Go back to that last year when Uranus was dipped its toes into Gemini. You'll see common themes coming back up. For me, that was a very magical, very, very fucking magical couple months of my life. So I'm looking forward to this magic to ramp up again. And I trust that it will be the same for you. So anyway, that night Uranus moves into Gemini. I said the winds of change are upon us. It's officially Mercurial trickster season, baby. Let's do it. And then 14 minutes after Uranus moves into Gemini, we have the moon moving into Virgo. So it's all of this mercurial energy just being slammed at us at once. We have Venus moving into Gemini on the 24th, Uranus moving into Gemini on the 25th, and then 14 minutes later, the moon moving into Virgo. Lots of mercurial trickster energy. And then the day after that, we're going to have Venus sextiling Neptune at 3 degrees Gemini, and then 3 degrees Aries, and 3 degrees is a Gemini degree too. So even more of that Mercury energy, baby. We love it so much. And Venus with Neptune, again, it's not a huge energy. It's not a huge aspect, but it's just asking you again for that checking in that your dreams still align with your values, and also giving your dreams and like those big lofty visions of where you see yourself. It's allowing the spiritual side of that, especially with Venus. Venus is very spiritual. It's very sensual. It's very connected to the self and also connected to the beauty of the self and the beauty of the world around you. So it's making sure that those big dreams are allowing, like you're not just workhorsing it, but you're stopping to smell the roses. You're finding the beauty in the work towards the dream. So the 28th, we will have the moon move into Libra. And then Mars is going to trine Lilith at 14 degrees Aries and Sagittarius, while Venus is trining Pluto at 5 degrees Gemini and Aquarius. So just a few days ago, we had Mercury trining Lilith, and with Mercury, it was more about making sure the intellect and the mental processes were aligning with what we used to feel shame or felt we had to feel shame about, and allowing those parts to integrate in our mind. Mars just takes everything we've allowed to integrate, whether consciously or unconsciously, and puts action behind that. So you are allowing yourself now to move more in that energy of embodiment of what Lilith represents. It's more fast paced. It's more taboo. It's more sensual. It's more overtly sexual in a way, but not sexual in terms of like getting it on. It's like sexual in a way that is resistance, or not resistance, is well, yes, resistance, but also it's revolutionary. It's going against the system by using your body to almost get what you want. using your sensuality, using this breath of life, this energy that we've been told we had to suppress and be ashamed of, and this power we hold within us, using that to move towards your dreams and goals, and making sure that you are not allowing this energy of like other people's judgment, or because it's all just taught judgment, right? The judgment of society, the greater collective, you're not allowing those energies to keep you down, keep you dampened. You're saying, yeah, I see you looking at me, and you expand. You don't contract the way these, you can see it. When people are judging you, you can see them contracting. And it's almost like they're staring daggers at you because they also want you to contract and be all that in that miserable energy. Mars trining Lilith is saying, not only am I not contracting, you will feel me. You will not only see me, you will feel me. And in that feeling, you have the choice to either contract into your shell and then leave me the fuck alone, or you have the choice to show the strength that you have within you towards that feeling of shame and repression and judgment that you've been taught to send into others and expand. And that's just in your presence. You won't have to say a single fucking word. That will be felt with Mars trine Lilith. And again, at the same time, Venus trining Pluto, even more energy of being expansive and open, especially owning your beauty. And I like that we have a trine with Lilith and Mars and then Venus and Pluto, because Lilith and Venus together is like both sides of the feminine. It's the sides that we've been taught to feel shame and repress, and the sides that have been deemed more societally acceptable. Both of those making trines to our planet of action and fire and drive and willpower, and then Pluto again, the planet of death and rebirth and transformation. On the 30th, we will have Mercury conjoining Eris in Aries, which is loosely conjoining Chiron, but we're going to mostly talk about this Mercury in Eris because this gives us major callbacks to the Pisces new moon and the Libra full moon and the Aries new moon, because Chiron and Eris had been making those exact conjunctions, not only with each other at first, but also with the other planets moving through Aries as they transitioned, right? So Eris, again, I'm not going to go too deep into it. Eris is the asteroid of destruction and calamity and chaos, right? Mercury is our intellect. It's our planet. It's our weird. It's our intellect. It's our communication. It's how we make sense of the world around us. So this is almost saying like we checked in with Lilith and Mercury to make sure that all of the things we've been taught to repress, we're no longer repressing in here, so we can become ourselves in full totality, right? On the 30th, when Mercury conjoins Eris, it's bringing like chaos. Like if you didn't take heed of the integration that Lilith trining Mercury was asking you to willingly and consciously integrate within you, Eris is almost going to force you to integrate those parts of yourselves by causing more calamity and chaos. And if you've already moved through the shadow work to make that happen, this isn't going to be as crazy. But watch your tongue on that day. Be very mindful of the things you say. Because Mercury is the trickster, and when Mercury comes together with Eris, Eris is a trickster in that way that she will just cause chaos. Mercury is a trickster in the way that it's Hermes, it's Loki, it's this energy of the primordial tricksters that just cause chaos sometimes because they're bored. So be very mindful if you're not trying to make people feel some type of way about you because you're making them feel vastly uncomfortable just because you're bored. Mind your tongue. Mind your tongue on that day. Oh my God, mind your tongue. Now, if you do want to cause chaos for chaos's sake and then laugh about it later, that's going to be a great day to do it on the 30th. Teach their own, teach their own. And then the very next day, though, mind your tongue that day, because the very next day we're going to have our full moon, our full flower moon in Scorpio, and Scorpio is karma. So if you're just doing things out of sheer boredom because you just want to see chaos reign, that might be instant karma for you with that Scorpio full moon. So be mindful. Be mindful. Take heed of that. So May Day, Beltane, full flower moon in Scorpio at 1:23 p.m. Eastern time. 11 degrees Scorpio too, and 11 is a master number in numerology. So that in itself, we're going to talk more about this day on the actual full moon in Scorpio video, which I will post in the next week and a half-ish. So keep a lookout for that. We've got Mercury conjunct Chiron at 27 degrees Aries that day. I said, I love that this is happening during the flower moon. Bloom, my dear. So beautiful. And then an exact sextile between Venus and Saturn at 9 degrees Gemini and Aries. And again, just for the sake of time, we'll talk more about that during our Scorpio full moon reading. So check in there. The day after that, we have Mercury moving into Taurus. So a lot of this fast paced energy that we're feeling with Mercury and Aries, it's going to slow us down a little bit. But again, it's slowing us down in pursuit of beauty. It's slowing us down so that our minds don't have to work at, not necessarily as hard, but we don't have to be so quick on our feet in order to put action towards our dreams, in order to keep our mind aligned to our dreams and keep it steady focused. Venus, or not Venus, Mercury, when it's in Taurus, it'll give us that opportunity to consciously and purposely slow down, slow our thinking down, slow our speech down, even the way I'm tapping into this energy right now, compared to the rest of the video so far. That's the energy it's going to be. It'll be the sacred pause. It'll be the breath, but especially before we get Mercury into Gemini, which isn't going to happen until later, but I think it's after Taurus season moves into Gemini. Just after Taurus season, if I remember correctly. We'll see. I'll have the notes for it somewhere if it is. But it's gonna be an opportunity to slow down. So you're still moving towards your goals, but this is the energy where it's like the flower at this point, because we're in the second half of Taurus season. We're just about in the second half of Taurus season. The flower is starting to bud. So we're no longer just the sprout. The flower is starting to bud. So we get a moment to enjoy the budding process. Like Mercury is allowing us to slow down to actually be there as we bud and witness ourselves in the transformation of that, which I think is a beautiful thing. And then the moon moves into Sagittarius on the 3rd. And on the 4th, we will have the moon directly conjunct Lilith at 15 degrees Sagittarius, and that is exact at about 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern time. So it's just connecting again our two very dark aspects of ourselves, because the moon is the deepest parts of ourselves, our emotional body. It's our value system. It's how we've grown into the people we're becoming. But internally speaking, it's our inner worlds, right? It's our inner landscapes of that emotional body connecting with Lilith, which again is the darker aspects of ourselves we've been taught to shame and repress and put down. So it's almost like this union coming together of allowing our emotions to engulf the darker aspects of ourselves and bring them into unity with ourselves. And at the same time, we're going to have Mars and Jupiter exactly square each other at 19 degrees Aries for Mars and 19 degrees Cancer for Jupiter. So as the moon is bringing Lilith into a tight hug, we're going to have more tension between the action we want to put towards everything we're moving to, and then with Jupiter, which is our luck, our growth and expansion. And because that Jupiter is ruling over the moon, which is conjunct Lilith at that point, and the moon and Lilith, oh, so they're making kind of a mutual rulership there, because the moon and Lilith are ruled by the Jupiter, which is in Cancer, which is ruled by that moon, which is making that conjunction to Lilith. So that in itself, that rulership in itself wants to be very harmonious. But Mars, that planet of action, being square that energy of Jupiter, which is ruling over that conjunction with the moon and Lilith, that's going to bring a little bit more tension and grounded focus towards the embrace, right? So there might be discomfort in the way that we pull ourselves in, and it might be through some sort of like conflict. That's conflict. It might be through conflict that you are able to actually bring this into at one mint, right? Atonement at one mint. It'll be through a sense of like fiery conflict and maybe a bit of passion here and there, but it's like a conflict either within yourself or with another person that's going to help you actually bring those parts of yourself into unity. So it's not necessarily going to be all peaches and flowers and like, oh, I'm just loving every part of myself because I choose to. It's almost like you're going to be forced to do it, but it's going to help you move towards greater at-one-ment atonement once again. So that'll be a good one. And then the next day, the moon moves into Capricorn on Cinco de Mayo, 5/5. We will have the sun in conjunct slash quincunx Lilith at 15 degrees Taurus and Sagittarius. And that's also the day that's called Beltane Cross Quarter Day. That's when the sun reaches 15 degrees Taurus. So it's interesting that the sun will not be able to see Lilith the day after the moon embraced her. That's fascinating. And it gives me the energy of like almost Lilith now working behind the scenes in your unconscious. So you went through some healing work to bring that Lilith energy more into unity within yourself. And then with the sun being directly quincunx Lilith the next day, which again, that just means they can't see each other in the chart. It feels like that healing work is going to continue. But again, covertly. You're not going to be able to see it or feel it or know what's happening until there's another like ignition of that Lilith energy where you're like, oh, I actually don't feel embarrassed about that anymore. I don't feel shame about that anymore. But since the sun can't see it, it's happening behind the scenes. So it's a fascinating thing. The day after the moon kind of embraces Lilith. I really like that. I like that. And on the same time, we'll still have that Mars Jupiter square and then Mercury square Pluto too. So it's more tension and more grounding of that energy of destruction, of transformation, of rebirth. Are we sensing a theme here, people? Are we sensing a theme? Oh, and then the next day after Mercury squares Pluto on the 6th, we've got Pluto turning around. Pluto's going retrograde again. It's been a while since Pluto has been retrograde. And that stations retrograde at 11:34 a.m. Eastern time. And at the same time, the nodes are also going to cross back into that 5-degree mark after, because the nodes are perpetually retrograded, right? So the day that Pluto stations retrograde at 5 degrees Aquarius, the north nodes are also crossing into the 5 degrees Pisces / Virgo energy there. So it'll directly semi-sextile and quincunx Pluto as it turns around. And at the same time, again, the moon's going to be in Capricorn, which is indirectly ruling over this Pluto that is now turning around to go retrograde. And with the moon in Capricorn, just after embracing that Lilith energy that's now doing background healing that like you can't really see, this is energy of transformation. This is alchemy. And this, especially with the moon ruling over that retrograded Pluto while it's moving through this. And then when it moves into Aquarius, it's going to pass over that retrograded Pluto. This is alchemical. Let it burn. Let it burn. Let it burn. Okay, Usher, chill out. Chill out. And on the same day, we're going to have Venus directly opposing Sagittarius at 15 degrees Sagittarius. Oh my gosh, Taurus season likes to be slow, but there is a lot of heavy hitters that we're moving through with this energy. Let me tell you, it's like man, Lilith's being lit up by every corner. We got Pluto being lit up in every direction. We got so much energy of transformation here. So it's like as we are blooming, we are also allowing the decay to happen, especially during that Scorpio full moon. Especially during that Scorpio full moon. Let it decay, let it burn so you can grow. That metaphor of the bushfire is very relevant, and I'm glad I used it early. But yeah, on the 8th, we got the moon moving into Aquarius, and it will conjoin Pluto around 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern time at that 5-degree mark. And at the same time, Vesta will semi-sextile Chiron at 27 degrees Pisces and Aries. So Vesta and Chiron, let it burn. Be devoted to allowing the stories of your old wounds to burn and release them. Like you don't need to keep holding on to them to keep you safe. And actually, with Vesta semi-sextiling that, it's a promise that tells you if you stop holding on to with a white knuckle grip those aspects of yourself that you built walls around to make you feel safe. If you allow those walls to crumble, Vesta promises that devotion to self, the devotion to growth, the devotion to healing will become beneficial because you will be able to, like Vesta does, just be and receive. You won't have to work to receive if you allow those walls that Chiron helped you build up to crumble. To crumble. And while Chiron is the wounded healer who can't necessarily like technically rule or can't technically heal himself, allowing the walls to crumble and allowing yourself to be exposed and vulnerable is an aspect of allowing yourself to find healing through the scariness and the vulnerability of being so open. And again, Vesta promises that showing devotion to yourself and allowing those walls to crumble and being devoted to the trust that you have in yourself to not necessarily not be fearful, but not be so embedded in fear of the unknown that you're like keeping yourself in one place and you're not moving and you're like, maybe if I don't move, nothing will see me and it'll be fine. Fuck, and move, baby. Move your body. Feel into it. Let it flow, let it go, because that's how you will show yourself devotion to allow yourself to just be and receive. Got the last quarter moon in Aquarius the next day on the 9th. Again, 5/9 at 5:10 p.m. It'll be exact. Progress, baby steps. We're going to keep it going. On the 10th, we will have Mother's Day. And on that same day, we will have the Sun, Venus, and Jupiter all at 20 degrees, Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer, respectively. Did I say 22? I meant 20 degrees. If I didn't, I don't know. Anyway, Sun, Venus, and Jupiter, 20 degrees, Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer. We'll have the moon move into Pisces at 1:39 p.m. that day, and then Mercury, quincunx Lilith in Taurus and Sagittarius. More background work of Lilith kind of integrating without necessarily needing to have its focus on there. So that's all that really is there. And that's a harmonious energy between Sun and Venus and Jupiter. So the Sun and Jupiter will be sextile, and then Venus will be semi-sextile both, and 3 really beneficial planets. So that'll be and I love that that's on Mother's Day. Come on now, the moms deserve that. And again, with Mercury not being able to see Lilith, the more taboo aspects will be hidden from us, but also integrating at the same time. So very harmonious energy. I enjoy that. That's nice. And then on the 11th, we will have Vesta at 29 degrees Pisces, the critical degree, in a magical devotional energy here in our magical devotional spiritual sign that Pisces represents. And it's going to be a very deeply reflective and divinatory energy that we're moving with that day. So I would say on the 11th, make time to meditate. Make time to meditate, make time to tap in. The answers will come to you if you, especially if you ask the right questions. The answers will come. Just sit with yourself and listen. Take heed. And then on May 12th, we'll have the sun at that 22-degree mark again in Taurus. We'll have Mars conjoining Aries. We've talked a lot about that, both of them already, but putting action to the chaos. So, where Mercury conjoining Eris, it was a day to watch your words, watch your tongue. Mars conjoining Eris, watch your actions. You could, like, potentially hurt yourself that day if you're not being careful and mindful about where your body's going. You could potentially hurt others that day. That, especially in Aries, it gives me the energy of like car accidents. Don't get into road rage because people are going to be on fucking edge. That's on the 12th. Be very mindful there. And while that is happening, we'll also have Mercury sextiling Jupiter. We'll have the moon conjoining Vesta. And then the moon moves into Aries after it conjoins Vesta, just about an hour later. So, yeah, the heavy hitter that day is that Mars Eris conjunction. Be mindful. Be mindful. Especially Mars and Eris, and then Mercury and Jupiter having that harmonious energy. The energy of Mars and Eris is going to almost like outwit, outplay, outlast Mercury sextiling Jupiter. So it's almost as if like the actions that will like the actions surrounding chaos and the chaos driven actions are going to overtake the energy of the mind, which will be then expanded by Jupiter. Again, road rage. Just be careful on the 12th. Maybe stay inside on the 12th. Just mind your business on the 12th. On the 13th, throughout the day, we will have the moon conjoining Neptune at 3 degrees Aries. That's going to be either very late at night on the 12th or very early, like 2, 3 a.m., depending on where you are, if you are in the United States. And then you're going to have moon conjoining Saturn later that day in the afternoon, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And while that's all happening, Vesta will be directly sextile Uranus, and it's happening just as Uranus is in the final minutes of that 0 degree mark, while Vesta is in the early minutes of that 0 degree mark, but still happening at that 0 degree mark the day before Uranus moves into that 1 degree. And I like that just as Vesta is moving out of that critical 29 degree last degree of the zodiac energy of culmination of divinatory energy of becoming, it transitions to that 0 degree mark where it makes that harmonious aspect with Uranus. So it's almost like whatever you had put into motion then and allowed to come to a culmination, making that sextile with Uranus, there's going to be very vast, unexpected changes to the way you approach your devotion. So be mindful of the ways, especially in terms of spirituality and how you move with that devotional energy. Be mindful of the subtle changes you decide to make. Again, this is on the 13th of May. Mindful of the subtle changes because those subtle changes that you make in terms of how you approach the way you are devoted to yourself and to your dreams and to your visions, to everything you're moving towards, they will take you far. And especially if it's unpredictable, unexpected changes where you just wake up one day, you're like, I've been doing this in my morning routine every day for the last 3 years, and now I feel like I don't need to do it anymore. Okay, don't do it anymore then. Things like that. Don't overthink it. If you feel the call to either add or subtract or divide or multiply or however it, keep the call. That's all I'll say about that. On the 14th, we will have Mercury conjoining the Sun at 23 and 24 degrees Taurus. It'll start the conjunction at 23 degrees and then continue as it moves into 24 degrees. And then it'll semi-sextile Venus, which is at 24 degrees Gemini. Very, very harmonious energy between our intellect, our approach to the way we speak, and how direct we are in our speech. It'll be a very clear vision or very clear portal between the mind and the approach and how we approach the things we want by using our intellect and our communication and our essence. So we love that. And on that same day, we're going to have the moon conjoining Eris around 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern time. That'll be exact. So as we are having this very clear approach to like our mind and our communication and the way we approach life is all very harmonious that day. Internally, we might be feeling a little bit of chaos. Internally, while we're like approaching life in a way that like looks from the outside very confident, very put together, very like mild mannered, oh, they make it look easy energy. Inside, it's going to not feel as easy again, especially around 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern time. Just move through it. It's not going to be a like a the moon moves quickly, so it's not going to be a long transit. So trust in the confidence. Trust in the way you are being seen approaching the world rather than the way you feel you're approaching the world because you are doing a lot better than you feel you're doing. Remember that. Oh, and then after the moon conjoins Eris, it's going to conjoin Mars, and then it's going to conjoin Chiron, and then it'll move into Taurus. So it's going to be an energy again where externally you look like $1,000,000. Internally, it's going to feel like a battle. But trust you are doing a lot better than you may feel you're doing. And then once the moon moves into Taurus, that's where it's in its exaltation. The energies will be alleviated. So again, it'll be more like afternoon, evening that you feel that internal like push pull, like tug of war dynamic, but it'll be over, especially by the next day. So just ride with that. We're gonna skip the 15th because there's not any real like massive energies that day. We have a couple aspects, but that's it. But then on the 16th, we have the new moon in Taurus, and just like every new moon so far this year, making crazy exact conjunctions, but we will talk more about that in my new moon in Taurus reading because that's going to need its own video. That's going to need a lot of time there. Da, 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 da. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. I won't even touch it right now. But then on the 17th, the day after the new moon in Taurus, we will have Mercury move into Gemini, where it will be at home, and it'll conjoin Uranus at 1 degree Gemini. Pretty much instantly after that, Vesta will still be sextile Uranus at 1 degrees Aries and Gemini. So Vesta will sextile that conjunction with Mercury and Uranus, which I'm going to talk about this in the new moon reading as well, just because, again, I'm trying to be very mindful of time. There was a lot to talk about here, and I can feel like my throat is starting to get scratchy, so I'm just trying to get these last 2 days to completion. But on the 17th, we do have kind of a lot going on. Mercury moves into Gemini, conjoining Uranus, sextiling Vesta, and then Mars will be at 29 degrees Aries, so that critical degree mark, and in its domicile. So that's going to be a very amplified energy of action, orientation, of will, of drive, and especially as Mercury is moving into Gemini in its domicile, conjoining Uranus, all while Mars is at a critical degree in its domicile, and then Venus sextiling Chiron. Intense energy as we end Taurus season. And then on the 18th, we'll have Mercury sextiling Neptune, Mercury sextiling Neptune, Mars sextiling Venus. Mars moves into Taurus, which will slow us down a little bit, especially in terms of our action orientation. Mars moves into Taurus at 6:25 that night. The moon will conjunct Venus at 29 degrees Gemini and then 0 degrees Cancer later in the night about 8:45 to 11:30 p.m. Venus then moves into Cancer at 9:05 p.m. and then the moon moves into Cancer at 9:46 p.m. as well. So again, moon conjoining Venus at 29 degrees Gemini starts at about 8:45 p.m. and then they both usher into Cancer together throughout the night, and they will remain directly conjunct until about 11:30 p.m. that night. And then to end out Taurus season, finally, we've got our moon conjoining our Jupiter at 21 and 22 degrees Cancer around 8 to 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll have Mars, Uranus, and Venus all at 1 degree, Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer respectively. Vesta conjoining Neptune at 3 degrees Aries right around 3 p.m. That in itself to end out Taurus season. Again, very devotional, dreamy. I will, yeah, because we started off the season with Mercury conjoining Neptune. No, Mars conjoining Neptune to put action towards those bigger dreams that we spoke into existence when Mercury was with Neptune. So we started by speaking our bigger dreams into existence. Mars was putting action behind the dreams we spoke into existence. And now that we have both spoken and put action behind those dreams, Vesta conjoining Neptune is making sure we're staying devoted, not just for now, but for the long term. Vesta is going to show you exactly what you need to do every single day, how you need to do it, how you need to go about it. Vesta is going to make sure you have that devotional energy behind the action and the word. So it's not just like inconsistent action and empty words, right? Vesta is going to make sure those big dreams are actually attainable if you put the devotion there. You need to consistently keep up with that. And Vesta is going to make sure you can at least see what you have to do, feel what you have to do, feel how you got to groove in order to make those dreams a reality. And then yeah, that night the sun moves into Gemini, 8:37 p.m. We are going to zoom through this reading because I talked way more than I wanted to, but there was a lot to talk about. And again, because my video paused, we're probably close to an hour at this point, but I can't tell because oh, that was a whole huge pile. The Page of Pentacles fell out at the pile, and then the Seven of Swords. Seven of Swords. This is my Grateful Dead deck, by the way. Page of Pentacles and the Seven of Swords. So you're allowing yourself to be a student of life again, and you might, throughout Taurus season, learn hard lessons in deception. And I think just based on the transits and the aspects we talked about, you're not necessarily going to experience a lot of deception outside of yourself, but it's going to be internal deception and the ways in which you can like you trick yourself. Yeah. Hold on, what's this one? The ways in which you trick yourself. Yeah. So, and okay. Okay. So we started with the Page of Pentacles. So you're being a student of life and taking things in strides and being very patient with yourself as you go towards it, recognizing the deception that not only you are capable of experiencing externally, but the deception you hold within. And I think that's going to come about, especially with all of these Lilith transits that we have, the conjunction, or yeah, the conjunctions, the trines, and the oppositions. When Lilith is lit up like that, it's going to be an interplay between like, because Lilith is the things we've been taught to feel shame about, there's going to be deception in the ways in which you go to integrate her. And I think if you recognize the internal deception as not like as the lesson rather than the outcome, you recognize the deception not as Lilith herself, but as the pathway to receive her, the pathway to integrate her. And if you take that in strides, you're moving. Oh, what's behind there? Oh, okay. I thought it was just the sun. You're moving towards this illumination of self and this new becoming. And in the Rider Waite deck, the sun shows that baby on a horse riding away from the stone wall behind it. And the stone wall represents the borders, the barriers that you've kept yourself in previously, right? So as the baby rides away from the external barriers towards this new beginning, towards this new sense of illumination, justice was also behind the sun there too. So it's not only that you're riding into this new life of integration and expansion and like a sense of wildness and a freedom, a freedom that you were never able to experience within the walls before. Um, Not only are you going to experience that new life, it's going to be a sense of justice. So it's almost as if you have been working, especially if you've been doing justice work for a long time. Taurus season will not necessarily be the culmination of that, but Taurus season you will start to see the payout of that. I actually just made a TikTok video about this like 3 days ago too. It was just a message I received that night. But Taurus season will be the beginning of seeing payouts. And where and I didn't even notice the wall was in this card too. You can see the wall there. But where the injustice in the past, maybe it was external, maybe it was internal, maybe it was learned behaviors, but the injustices that kept you behind this wall in the past, now that you have consciously broken free beyond that wall and you recognize the deception not as a way to keep you down, not as again the end goal or the end lesson, the deception is the path itself. Through the deception is the path towards this sense of enlightenment and illumination, which is becoming and going forth towards the larger world around you. Once you make that conscious decision, you will start to see the payoff. And maybe it is monetarily. It doesn't just have to be monetarily, though. That payoff can be just existing as you in that divine union we talked about with Juno and Pluto together. In that divine union as your sacred self, as your full embodied being. And again, we started this reading with the Page. Once you move past that and recognize the deception not as the end, but as the path, you're moving from the Page directly to the King of Pentacles. Directly to the King of Pentacles. And then at the bottom of the deck here, we had the Ace of Cups. So you're moving from the sense of feeling like you are still a student and you are learning from deception. It's almost like you're at the tail end of the Page energy this Taurus season. Like you've been the student for a long time, and I think that's what the Page of Pentacles represented, because the Pentacles is about patience, and you've been very patient with yourself. And Taurus season is going to, that's why you're going to see justice of this, because you've been in this Page energy for a very long time. Maybe even since Uranus dipped back into Gemini last year, because I did bring that up during the transit reading last. You've been in this Page energy for a very long time, and you're at the tail end of it. And it's almost like the last lesson is that lesson in deception. That last lesson is seeing the ways you've deceived yourself or you've allowed yourself to be deceived, and recognizing that the deception wasn't anything to actually hold you back, but the deception was the catalyst. The deception was the catalyst. It's the Empress. The deception was the catalyst so you can become the creator, and then the Five of Wands reverse under the Empress. So you can move away from this like petty, quarrelsome energy into the energy of creation, creating the life that you actually want to live. Eight of Swords reverse. You're moving out of this like mental imprisonment, and I think in the past deception might have put you in this mental imprisonment again. And then there's the Ace of Cups again, and then at the bottom of the deck, what's that one? So we had, look at how this came out here. We have the Three of Wands here. Oh no, three of Wands, and then who's this? The Four of Wands too. Yeah, the three and the Four of Wands. And then I think that's the Ten of Cups peeking out as I pulled the Four of Wands out. So in the past, you've allowed deception to cloud your judgment and put you in this sense of like, that's the Eight of Swords energy reverse. You've allowed it to put you in this like unpenetrable cocoon, right? You can't penetrate it, but you also cannot escape it. And that's what the Eight of Swords is. It's this prison of your own making. It's this mental prison of your own making. You put yourself there because you've experienced deception in the past, but where it's like you had this change of heart, this change of mindset, this change of vision of what deception actually represents in your life. Where in the past you saw deception as betrayal. You saw deception as this like this icky, I would never do that to anyone. And it's like you didn't see yourself capable of deception, but you have now connected very deeply with your Lilith, especially throughout Taurus season and throughout the seasons before, because she has been highlighted a lot since she moved into Sagittarius. But you've connected deeply with those aspects of yourself that you were taught to be shamed of, or you were taught to repress, or those darker aspects of yourself that you maybe didn't want to claim. The fact that you can be manipulative, the fact that you can be like really fucking rude and bitchy and mean, like all of these sides of yourself where you used to tell yourself you are strictly not this. I am not a mean person. I am kind. I am all of these things that are so good and holy and righteous and blah, 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 and I would never do any of that. The truth is, if you're a human being, you are capable of that too. And this Taurus season is going to represent a coming to terms with that. And that's kind of the culmination. Vesta at that 29-degree Pisces mark is coming back. That's the culmination of that energy. Because to be devotional to your truth, you need to understand what you are capable of. You need to know your whole truth. Nothing but the truth. So help me God. Like, talk about justice. You need to know your whole truth. You need to know what you are capable of so you can choose to exist as this. It's not that you are not a mean person. It's that you can see how capable you are of being mean and rude and heartless and vindictive and all of these things that you used to like really paint in a negative light. You see that you are capable of this, but you're choosing to not be. You're choosing to be kind. You're choosing to be loving. You're choosing to be understanding. But you know you are capable of this, and this can come out whenever necessary. That's the energy of Taurus season. And then as you move with that, again, we had the Ten of Cups come out. We had the Three of Wands. So the ships are going to be coming in now that you are in that energy of full embodiment, of totality, of awareness. Not only the ships are coming in, union, divine union, maybe with yourself, maybe with a partner, but it's like this. And I like how we started the transits talking about the marriage with Juno. It's this divine marriage, it's this divine union of all those aspects of yourself, especially the sides of yourself you've been taught to repress. And you're stepping into this energy of creator and creative. Interesting. And again, we had the Ace and the Ten of Cups. It's divine emotional fulfillment. It's riding off into the expansion of what it means to be alive. You've let the walls of that Chiron crumble, which started with Chiron and Eris and will continue as all of these other planets pass over Eris and Chiron together. You are letting those walls crumble. And while you can feel vulnerable being outside of those safety walls, you also are able to actually experience. It's not going to necessarily be comfortable all the time, but I think you are ready to move beyond comfort. I think you've been too comfortable for too long that the comfort's now fucking boring. It's boring. And especially as Uranus moves into Gemini and all of these planets start to move into Gemini, Venus in Gemini, Mercury into Gemini, we'll get Mars into Gemini during Gemini during Gemini season, you are going to crave the discomfort because the discomfort means stimulation, the likes of which you have yet to experience. And as you are in the energy of discomfort, you're going to love it. You're going to love it because it means expansion, it means illumination, it means creation, it means enlightenment, it means culmination, it means becoming the most dignified and also secure financially and emotionally and physically speaking, dignified, secure, aware individual that you can be. And again, opportunities will abound. And I just split to the Nine of Cups. The Ace, the Nine, and the Ten. Opportunities abound and fulfillment comes in. And the Nine of Cups is more of a solitary energy of like being self-satisfied. So I almost feel like, again, this union with the Four of Cups, or the Four of Wands, excuse me, this union of Juno, and maybe that's what Juno and Pluto are representing when they come together early in Taurus season. It's revamping your understanding of what it means to be in union. Union doesn't just mean with another person. And I think a very important aspect of divine union is coming into union with self. You cannot be in true union with another until you're in union with yourself. And that's what we're going to be coming to terms with in Taurus season. That's what it represents for us. And then split to the Queen of Cups. That's what it represents. You're coming into union with self so that you know how to be in fulfilling union, not only with others, but with your life, with experience, with joy, judgment. And I'll end it there. I would not be surprised if this ends up being more than an hour long. Maybe I'll edit it down so it's not, but I will leave you at that. Thanks for being here. I'm very much looking forward to Taurus season. Pisces season was the slow molasses being there and having nowhere to go and no options but to be there and sit with the gook and the gunk and feel it so you can heal it and release it if necessary, integrate it otherwise. Aries season was the final movement, not the final, like the end movement, but like finally we are moving after feeling so slow and stagnated. And Taurus season, we will still be moving quickly, but a lot of it is internal movement. A lot of it is that internal alchemy, where Aries season, there was also that internal alchemy, but it's like the path cleared so we can start walking the path towards our destiny. Taurus season, as we are walking the path, we are alchemizing from the inside out. And as we continue to alchemize and as we take the steps down this path, the alchemy is going to lead us to not only more fulfilling and greater and more beautiful horizons, but as we continue the evolutionary process of alchemizing with every single step we take, it's like you'll take one step and you won't see any opportunity. And then you alchemize a little bit and then you take another step and somebody's like, oh, do you want to do this? You're like, sure. And then you take another step and you have three other people that are like, oh, what about this? What about that? Tides are shifting. What did I say? The winds of change are among us, people. The winds of change are among us and we are going full force into this trickster energy. And I think it's about time. I think it's about time. I think we all need it. But that's it. Thank you guys for sticking with me. If you stayed this long, I need a podcast or something because Jesus fucking Christ. But I love y'all. Thanks for being here for you and for me and for all of us with glee. Yippee. Maybe that'll be my new sign off. I did that for the Aries season or the Aries reading too. But anyway, seriously, that's it. I love y'all. You rock. Onward and inward, inward and onward. That's all I gotta say. See you next time. Love y'all. Bye.